You Booked It, episode 25. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainers 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to be a successful entertainer. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainers. We are here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating and review. And to show our appreciation for your, fingers crossed, 5-star rating and review, I will give you a shout out on an upcoming episode. And now, let's do this. Alrighty, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Rebecca de Carteret, also known as Becs. Becs, are you ready for this?
I sure am, Dane.
All right. Hailing from Gloucestershire, England, Becs was always attracted to the bright lights of the big cities. At the age of 18, she moved to London to train at the prestigious London Studio Centre, where she gained a BA in theatre dance. Upon completion of her degree, she went on to work with the likes of Rihanna and British pop group M People. She performed at the Royal Albert Hall for multiple seasons of the classical spectacular and also became the featured dancer on a 10-part season called Justin Lee Collins' Good Times. Becs also did a few contracts with Norwegian Cruise Lines, where she met her husband, Sean, an ex-clown with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. After saying I do, the pair moved to Las Vegas to further their careers. Beck soon gained a spot in the infallible Jubilee, where she became a featured dancer under the direction of Frank Gatson Jr. She performed there for 2 years before joining the cast of Vegas the Show, where she became the lead dancer as Lady Luck. Becs also worked at Marquee Nightclub for 5 years as dance captain and choreographer, and her work is still being performed there today. In 2018, Becs fell pregnant with their daughter Arabella. Her daughter was the catalyst for her to start her own company called City Cats, a production company and multifaceted girl group. In addition to producing her own show and corporate events, Becs also works as a freelancer in town, most recently performing at Fashion Show Mall for Entertainment Plus Productions. Becs, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps, who you are, where you're calling home, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
Okay, well, I guess I could start with my name, as we had just been talking about that. So professionally, I do go by the name Rebecca de Carteret, but everybody does know me as Becs. And I go by that just because it's nice and simple. I definitely think as well, us Brits like to shorten our names. We are always into nicknames. I've always been known as Becs. Obviously, I started in ballet and tap and jazz at 3. And actually, in fact, I started with gymnastics at 2 years old. Not that, pretty sure we didn't do that much at 2, but that's when my mum decided she needed to put me in some sort of classes to try and tame some of the energy that I had.
Yeah.
So then doing all the dance classes, I later on started with acting classes as well, and took a lot of the acting certificates under LAMDA, which is a certification that we have in the UK, and it's also an acting school too. So I did do a lot of the speech and drama festivals. We call them festivals. In the US, they call them competitions, as well as dance. And then obviously moving on to college when I was 18. And then, I mean, yes, really, the rest is history. I had a pretty successful career in the UK. And then meeting my husband on cruise ships, we decided the best place for us all to go would be Las Vegas.
Perfect. Well, let's move on to this next section. And look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What's your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
So, as you've seen my resume, so actually on my resume, I have a quote, which is dancing with your feet is one thing, but dancing with your heart is another. And I have that on my resume because I always, in my opinion, bring my heart to every movement, every step, every nuance that the music tells me. So that's definitely something that I live by and move by and dance by. And so that's definitely a quote that I live by. But another quote that I do also live by is treat others how you'd like to be treated yourself. So I always hope and strive to bring that into reality, especially with my company City Cats. And I try and be fair and just, never do anything that I wouldn't want to be done to myself.
For sure. And I think there's a lot to be said when you said moving and doing the moves with your heart versus just doing them. Because it's one of those things that's kind of difficult to explain, but you know it when you see it, don't you?
Yeah.
And I think Jubilee and also the role of Lady Luck in Vegas, the show that you've played, are quintessential roles that really emphasize that, especially Jubilee, because if you are your traditional showgirl and you're walking across the stage, for someone just looking at it, it doesn't really seem like all that much, but it's all of that feeling, all of the heart that makes all the difference. It's all those subtleties and moving beyond your body as well that really makes the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what performance is. A lot of the people, I mean, there's another quote that I actually don't agree with, which is dance like no one's watching. And the reason why I don't agree with that necessarily is because if you're dancing like no one's watching, then what is the point? You are there to give your art to the audience. You're there to give your art to somebody else. So I understand it's obviously it really means to dance with abandonment and to forget yourself and live in the moment. I understand obviously that's what it really means. But you also have to dance like somebody's watching because you are dancing for them. You're giving your art to the audience. And so it has to like it just feels so good to be able to share something with somebody else. It's so easy for a recording artist or a painter or sculptor to share that art with somebody, but as a performer on stage, to actually give something to the audience is something else. It's them being able to leave that theater with a part of you, and that's the memory of watching you on stage. And one thing is to make sure they don't forget you or to forget that performance. So I definitely feel very proud when people, strangers even, come up to me, like in Vegas. Seriously, this has happened a few times, and they've recognized me from my role as Lady Luck, and they come up and they're like, "Oh, wait, weren't you in that show?" And that, I believe, all comes down to I never step foot on the stage without giving it my all, even if I'm exhausted.
Absolutely. I love your take on that quote. Well, let's move to the next section now. And Bex, of course, you are an entertainer. I am an entertainer. And I think you'd agree that the entertainment industry is one of the most subjective, brutally honest, and personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and to have a successful career in this industry like you're having now, takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being an entertainer, being on stage, sharing our art. There are also our fair share of obstacles and challenges and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to learn how to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Okay. So I kind of have something for a failure, a challenge, and an obstacle. So
Great.
I'm sorry, so you have to bear with me.
Do it all.
So, okay, so failure, where I feel like I failed, which is such a terrible thing to say, but my failure would be that I never actually made it onto the West End stage. I trained not only in dance but singing and acting. It was a full rounded triple threat kind of training. The end goal for a lot of us at college was the West End, and so that is something that I would say that I failed at. I never got that role. I was sure I was born to play a part in Chicago, and I was sure I was born to be in Cabaret and all these other amazing shows, and unfortunately I just was never chosen. No matter how hard I tried, I never actually made it onto the West End stage. An obstacle or challenge that I had also was moving to the US. Or at least moving to Vegas. I literally moved from the UK straight to Vegas, obviously with my husband in tow, but we took a risk, and we didn't know what we were going to expect. We didn't have any work lined up at all. I had a handful of agencies that my American friend had given me, and I'd reached out to them prior to moving to Las Vegas, and was just like, "Hi, I'm this girl, and I'm going to be living in Vegas. I'd love to meet with you. I'd love to work for you." And that was actually met with a lot of dead ends, because I think that people were like, "Well, we'll call us when you get here." There wasn't a lot of interest in just this English girl moving to Vegas. And then another challenge that I have had, which I know that you probably would agree, is also having my daughter Arabella. Unfortunately, in this industry, when you decide to become a mother, it can be frowned upon. Sort of. I think that not necessarily frowned upon, but there definitely becomes this image of a mother who is still a performer or a dancer, and it's hard to meet those challenges and to make sure that people know that you're still able and willing to work. And I think that I know that I actually met a lot of challenges once I had Arabella. I actually was let go from two of my jobs that I had long standing in this city, and of course whether or not they'd actually admit that it was because I had a child, but I think that that's really when it comes down to it, was really, that's what it was having a child, and people not being sure whether I'd be able to give my all to the job anymore, or people not sure whether my body would bounce back to fighting shape anymore or anything like that. Anyway, as you know, I have bounced back and some. So yeah, those are definitely some of my failures, obstacles, and challenges that I have met and punched in the face.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with having children. Obviously, I am not a woman, but my wife is, and she is an entertainer, of course, as well. And yeah, it definitely presents its own unique set of challenges having children, but it is not in any way a reason not to have children if that's something that you want to do, because you really can
Absolutely.
do it all. You
Yes.
just have to kind of realign a few priorities and get
Yes.
really good at managing your time.
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes. And it's true. It takes a village. My lord, that is one true quote right there. It takes a village to raise a child.
Absolutely. Well, let's move to the next section now, to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
So growing up in Gloucestershire, I attended two different dance schools in my time. I was never really a favorite, basically, and I think that came down to the fact that I didn't do a lot of dance festivals or competitions. I did do some, but I wasn't one of those, competition kids, as you would say in the US. And not that that's what it was always about, but I do, I wasn't really ever a favorite because I wasn't ever in their eye all the time, I guess. So I didn't honestly appreciate that I had any talent. I just, I loved dancing. I loved doing what I was doing. My parents were happy to pay for my dance classes and all the ballet shoes that I was going through at a very rapid rate because my feet grew so fast and so large. Um, I was never put in the front, and especially as a tall kid as well, you're always put in the back and the back of the stage. And also a lot of the times I had to play the boy part because I was like tall and gangly, and there wasn't that many like male dancers in my dance school at the time. So I didn't ever really think that I had some talent. In the UK, you can actually leave school at 16, or you could then go on to what we call sixth form, and then leave school at 18. But that's the backstory. So when I was 16, I kind of was like, well, what am I going to do? What do I want to do with my life? I want to dance, but I don't think I'm good enough. And I remember having this conversation with my dance teacher, and she thought I was absolutely insane, that I didn't think I was good enough, and that I absolutely could and should try out as and try and get into a dance college and try and become a professional dancer. So I that conversation, and I still remember it to the day. The teacher was called Sadie, and I remember talking to my parents about it and being like, Miss Sadie thinks that I could be a dancer, and mum and dad at the time were adamant that I should get a degree, so they persuaded me to stay on at school for another 2 years to get my what they're called A levels. If you're Harry Potter fans, it's basically like the newts and the owls. So I stayed on, got my A levels, which then means you can then go on to higher education and get a degree. And then so when I was 17, started auditioning for the dance colleges and got in. And not only that, was I won multiple scholarships too, which was another sort of like aha moment of mine.
Of course.
Someone thinking that I honestly didn't really have much talent, or I would never even get into a dance school, but was awarded, they're called Dance and Drama Awards. Now there's only 600 Dance and Drama Awards given out every year throughout the whole of the UK. And I was offered two, as
Wow.
well as other multiple style scholarships for other colleges. So that was definitely my sort of, oh, wow, maybe I can do this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. The validation after all the training.
Yes, exactly. So
I love that. Well, let's piggyback on that question to your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the audition and callbacks, if those were part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that makes it your favorite booked it moment?
So of course you're absolutely right. That was definitely a booked it moment. We're getting those letters in the post and opening them up and realizing that not only was I offered multiple colleges, but I was also offered my first choice, which was London Studio Centre. But I'll skip forward a few years and talk about actually my booked it moment for Vegas the Show.
Yeah.
So obviously now I'm living in Vegas, and I'm a member of Jubilee. I went to the Vegas the Show audition because Jubilee at the time, we were going through this whole revamp, and I'd reopened the show, I guess I should say, and I was just feeling a little stale in the new revamp version of the show, and Vegas the Show was auditioning, I'd known Tiger Martina, the choreographer, because I had worked with him on cruise ships before. And I was like, you know what, let's just give it a go. The other thing about Vegas the Show was that I was a giant in comparison to anybody in that cast at the time. They had never hired anybody as tall as I am. For those who don't know, I'm like 5'10" and a half. Anyway, I went to the audition and got away through, obviously got the call back, which was exciting, but I still didn't really have any idea whether they would hire me or not, just purely because of my size, or my height, I should say. Anyway, I was at a friend's house, Dia Webb's house. I think it was her birthday, or it could have just been a random pool party. Anyway, I'm there, obviously had a few glasses of wine, and I get a call from the company manager, Shannon, and he tells me, Becs, we'd like to offer you a position in Vegas the Show. And my jaw dropped to the ground. I honestly couldn't believe it. I put the phone down. I was actually very secretive about it, because what actually was happening was that I was still in Jubilee and still under contract.
Ooh.
I know, I'm such a naughty girl. Of course I was having this inner turmoil. I love my Jubilee cast. We had such a great time. It really was a sisterhood, a family, even though the cast was the size of 85 people. It was such a huge cast, but we were all a family. I absolutely had the best time, best 2 years of my life in that show. And so I then had this inner turmoil. What am I going to do? Like, I really want to be in Vegas the Show. It's, you get 2 days off a week as opposed to just one. The money was better. The show is such a great show. The choreography is fantastic. Tiger Martina I liken him to the Bob Fosse of our age. Like his choreography, his style is just so fantastic. And I wish him to carry on and go even further in his career, because he really is somebody to admire and aspire to. He is, just an incredible genius. So I desperately wanted to do his choreography again. So basically I had to break my contract with Jubilee. So I kept it very quiet. I didn't let anybody know, apart from those closest to me, that I had been offered the position. But anyway, I guess long story short, it was quite an awesome moment for me, because I felt like I was paving the way for tall dancers to be in that show, and I did. Like, now, since I joined that show, the cast got much taller. Even now, the cast is much taller than it was before I joined. We had male dancers in there that were, I think Dane Erbach is 6'5". So yeah, I guess I definitely feel like my presence in that show opened it up for a much taller height line.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And of course, we are amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
So projects that I'm working on now is my girl group and production company, City Katz. I'm plugging away. It's kind of been difficult. I had a big corporate event on February 2nd it was, and I was really hoping that gig was going to be like a catalyst, and it was just going to be bang, 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 bang. We were going to get all the bookings rolling in, and this year was going to be my year where I was offering so many girls in town opportunities to be a part of the girl group, but obviously that didn't happen.
Right.
However, I'm still working very much on that, working on my social media for it, working on choreography, just all the behind the scenes things that have to happen, that go into performances that a lot of people don't think about. So I know that we have taken a huge hit because of COVID-19. And this town, I mean, it's an entertainment city, so this city has also taken a huge hit. Unfortunately, our economy is down, and And that's what's hard, but obviously something that we all learned with the crash of 2008 is the only way to build the economy is to spend money, and which is obviously something that you don't want to do because you don't have the money to spend, but it's so important to spend money at this time. We need to be putting money back into our economy. That's the only way to dig ourselves back out of this. So I'm pushing forward. I'm hoping that we start getting bookings come in for those that are interested in having entertainment. And honestly, where do I see the city? You know, I think that Vegas was on this flip of sort of changing anyway. They say these Las Vegas natives say that the city sort of reinvents itself every sort of 10 years. And I definitely felt this sort of resurgence of a new kind of Las Vegas with the opening of the Raiders and the Golden Knights and all the sports teams that we now have, I should say. So I think that we will always have entertainment. I think it's going to be a little different. I do worry that Cirque isn't going to make the comeback after this pandemic that it was before. I don't think it's going to have 6 shows on the strip anymore. I mean, maybe I don't mean to be negative. These are just my sort of opinions, but I think that it could be possible that maybe the production show is going to come back. And I think hopefully the casinos will start putting money back into their entertainment. And yeah, that's what I hope for. I hope for the production shows to come back.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping so as well. And I think that there probably will be because people want to be entertained.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree, right? Like it's
Right.
it's so true. But you're right. People do need to be entertained, and Vegas is that city that people come to because they need to live a life, have a vacation for a few days, and just be entertained. Literally, just those words say it all.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning round.
It's
I am
lightning.
going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I sure am.
Great. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Nothing. When I commit to something, I commit full force.
Perfect. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
It has to be a piece of advice from Tiger Martina, and it was even if you're facing the back and you're not facing the audience, never stop performing because you need to give them something to watch, even if they are just watching your back.
Love that. And so, so true. Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
So I am a list maker. I have always been a list maker, or I always have my to-do list every day, and I've done it pre-COVID, and I'm doing it during the COVID, and I will do it post. But that helps me figure out what I need to get done in the day. It helps me prioritize things, and it helps me tick things off the list and reach my goals basically. So even doing the City Cats social media stuff, it helps me to just get everything done and prioritize my time.
Absolutely. And I think it's always those little things that compound over time that really make the difference, but they're also the little things that are easy to just go, nah, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
So, fourth question. What is the best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, a podcast, maybe a piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now?
Definitely YouTube and Instagram. I find I gain a lot of my inspiration from YouTube videos and from Instagram.
Absolutely. And fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or keep it the same?
So my heart says I would do absolutely nothing differently. And that is because everything that I have done, every choice I've made, every path I've taken, every day that I've gone like hungry because I was, a poor starving artist living in London and, had my electricity and gas shut off because I couldn't pay the bills. Even though I have had some very poor moments in my life and very dire moments in my life, I'd have to say I wouldn't change a thing because everything has made me the person I am today, and everything led me to my husband and now obviously my daughter. So I would like to say I would change nothing because obviously I think my life's perfect. However, I guess maybe if I was to say anything, maybe stop trying so hard to get into the West End, because obviously that came out fast and not happening anyway. And I would have loved to at least done one of the shows in Paris, whether it was the Moulin Rouge or Lido, and I would have loved to have done a contract in Germany as well. So those are the only regrets that I have. However, I, also hashtag no regrets.
Yeah, it's hard to regret your life that you love so much,
Yes,
or any part of it. And that's why I like that question as well, because it is the conundrum of,
right,
well, all of my decisions, the good ones and the bad ones, got me to this great place that I'm in right now.
right,
But
right.
it's always fun to go down that rabbit hole and, what would I do?
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
And the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you have learned from your successful career in this industry that you would like to leave with our listeners?
The truth is, just be kind. Just be kind, Don't be a diva. Everybody is the same. We're all a squirrel trying to catch a nut. And on and we're all in this together, so just be kind. And yes, it's a very competitive industry, but you can't ever let your competitive side get the better of you, because you never know when you will work with people again, or you never know when you'll see that casting director again or anything like that. So just be kind.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to wrap up this interview, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
You you know it, Dane.
Yeah.
So yes, just my girl group production company, City Cats. You can find us on Instagram at city_cats. Cats is spelled Katz or Z. And also the same on Facebook and on TikTok. Not that I'm that big on TikTok, so I mean, you don't have to follow me on TikTok. But yeah, City Cats. So, and if you're looking at City Cats, basically the girl group, I should say, is multifaceted. So it's 6 female dancers, 1 female singer, and 1 female musician, which is generally a trombone player. And we have 4 stock shows, which are showgirl, jazz, burlesque, and disco, because everybody needs a little 70s
Yeah.
magic in their life. And these shows, it's always the same shows, and you can either have 3, 6, or 12 minutes of them. So if you're basically, the idea is that it's a plug and play. So if you have a last minute corporate booking, or you just decide you want to have some entertainment, then City Cats is the way to go, because we're already rehearsed, the costumes are already there, we're just a girl group ready to go, and it's live music, live singing, obviously live dancing, and we're right there. So that's my girl group. And then of course we do bespoke events too, so if you ever need anything different, then I can also produce that for you. I could do anything, and I have my daughter to thank for that. So she was definitely the catalyst of me wanting to start things myself and do things myself.
I love that. And I love that you have preset shows as well as the bespoke side of things, because I think a lot of companies, they do the bespoke thing for sure. That's very popular, but
Right.
there is a lot to be said
For
about the last minute gigs. I mean, I've been on so many corporate events and been working as a producer on corporate events where they're like, "Right, we've got an extra X amount of dollars that we need to spend in our budget." And it takes time to put together a show
yeah,
usually, but
yeah.
if you can just call you up and you're ready to go the next day, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. That was the whole idea. I was just like, why there it's funny because there isn't anything like that in Vegas anyway. And yeah, I really felt like there was a big hole in the industry for something like this. And I wanted to make it a girl group too, just because the reason, I mean, this is going into sort of more dramatical things, but obviously the reason behind it was having my daughter and finding that doors had been closed on my face after working for people for so long. And I just wanted to prove to the world that, you can be a mother and you can still do a lot of things. And so I wanted to make sure that I incorporated everybody, every woman. So actually, in my girl group, 4 of us are mothers, and we're killing it. So that was the whole goal, just to put out there a platform for women to feel comfortable and to feel empowered. And I hope that all of my girls feel that way.
I love that. Well, Bex, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been wonderful to have you.
Thanks, Dane. It has been my pleasure. Thank you so much for asking me to do this.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community, where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.